picture this. Your living room is full of people, friends, family, maybe a few faces your dog has seen a dozen times before. Someone's offering treats. Someone else is patting their knee, making those sounds people make when they want a dog's attention. And your dog walks through all of it, past the outstretched hands, past the food, past every invitation in that room. And then they reach you. They don't jump, they don't bark. They just settle, quietly, without ceremony, as if there was never any other option, as if the decision had already been made long before they walked through that door. You didn't call them, you didn't offer anything. They just chose you. Again, most people smile when this happens. They feel flattered, maybe a little smug, but very few people stop and ask the question that's actually worth asking. Why? Why you, out of everyone in that room? What does your dog know, or sense, or remember that made the choice that obvious to them? Because here's what's strange, it wasn't random, and it wasn't really about love in the simple way we tend to think about it. The answer goes somewhere much deeper than most people expect, and by the end of this, you're going to look at that quiet, loyal creature at your feet in a completely different way. Most of us were raised on a simple story about dogs. They bond with the person who takes care of them. Whoever fills the bowl, cuts the leash, throws the ball, that's the person the dog belongs to. It's a tidy, transactional explanation. Loyalty as repayment, affection as a reward system. You give, the dog gives back. And it makes sense on the surface. It fits with how we understand most relationships. Effort in, connection out. If you're the one feeding your dog every morning, walking them every evening, you naturally assume that's why they follow you from room to room, why they sleep near your side of the bed, why they wait for you specifically at the door. It's a reasonable belief, and it's one that almost everyone holds without questioning it, until the data gets in the way. Because here's what researchers have consistently found when they actually study multi-person households. Dogs regularly develop a strong preference for one individual, even when another person in the home provides more food, more walks, and more deliberate interaction. The resources don't determine the bond. The feeding schedule doesn't explain the choice. In household studies tracking canine attachment behavior, dogs showed clear orientation toward a specific person, returning to them more frequently, seeking proximity during stress, displaying more relaxed body language in their presence, regardless of who is technically the primary caregiver. So if it isn't the food, and it isn't the time, and it isn't even the deliberate affection, what is your dog actually responding to? What are they measuring in that quiet, watchful way of theirs when they decide who to belong to? The answer starts not with behavior, but with psychology. In the 1980s, developmental psychologists used something called the strange situation experiment to study how human infants attach to their caregivers, measuring distress when the caregiver left and relief when they returned. Decades later, researchers at the University of Veterinary Medicine in Vienna adapted that same framework for dogs. What they found was striking. Dogs don't just like their preferred person. They use them as a secure base, a psychological anchor from which they explore the world, and to which they return under stress. The structural pattern of their attachment was nearly identical to what we see in the parent-child bond. When the preferred person left the room, stress indicators spiked. When they returned, the dog's entire physiology shifted. Oxytocin released, body softened, breathing slowed. Your dog isn't just fond of you. You are, in a measurable neurological sense, their emotional home base, the person whose presence regulates their nervous system, the one whose absence creates a specific kind of unease that no one else in the room can fully resolve. That's not fondness, that's attachment. And it's not something that forms by accident. Think about what that actually means, not as a scientific finding, but as a lived experience between two creatures. Your dog has been watching you, not in the way we watch someone we're curious about, but in the way we watch someone we're trying to understand. Your tone in the morning when you're rushed, the way your energy shifts when something's wrong, the particular stillness you carry when you're calm. They've been cataloging all of it, quietly, without your awareness, building a model of who you are that is more detailed and more emotionally precise than most humans ever manage. And somewhere in that process, not in a single dramatic moment, but across thousands of small, unremarkable ones, they made a decision that this person is safe, that this person's presence means something the others don't, that the world is navigable when they're near. They chose you because you made them feel something that's very hard to manufacture and impossible to fake. Genuine, consistent safety. Not because you tried to, because, somehow, you just did. The bond your dog has formed with you isn't just psychological. It's written in chemistry. Research led by Dr. Takafumi Kikusui at Eizabu University in Japan revealed something remarkable. When dogs and their primary person make eye contact, both experience a measurable surge in oxytocin, the same hormone that floods the brain during mother-infant bonding and human romantic attachment. It's a feedback loop. You look at your dog, oxytocin rises. They look back, it rises further, in both of you simultaneously. Strangers don't trigger this response, neither do secondary caregivers. It's specific to the preferred person, but it goes beyond oxytocin. Studies examining cortisol levels, the hormone most associated with stress, have shown that the presence of a dog's chosen person produces a significantly greater reduction in cortisol than the presence of anyone else, including other familiar humans. Your dog's body chemistry responds to you in a way that is biologically distinct. You don't just make them feel calm. You alter their stress hormones in a way that no one else in their life can fully replicate. The bond is not metaphor. It has a molecular address. To understand why this happens, you have to go back, much further back than pet culture, further back than domestication, as we usually imagine it. Dogs have been co-evolving alongside humans for at least 15,000 years. Some genetic analyses push that figure closer to 30,000. And over that extraordinary span of time, natural selection wasn't simply rewarding dogs that were friendly toward humans in general. It was selecting, generation after generation, for dogs capable of something far more specific, identifying, tracking, and deeply attuning to individual humans. The dogs who thrived weren't the ones who were universally sociable. They were the ones who could read a particular person, anticipate their movements, mirror their moods, build the kind of trust that made them genuinely useful to one specific human life. Those dogs were fed more reliably, protected more carefully, and survived in greater numbers. What you're witnessing when your dog chooses you isn't a modern emotional luxury. It's an ancient instinct that has been refined across thousands of generations, still running in your dog today, still doing exactly what it was shaped to do. And what that instinct is measuring is not what most people think. It isn't looking for the loudest voice in the room, or the most enthusiastic affection, or even the most time offered. Research in animal cognition, including work from the Clever Dog Lab at the University of Vienna, suggests that dogs track something far more nuanced: emotional consistency, the degree to which a person's inner state and outer behavior align, the reliability of their moods, the predictability of their presence. Your dog has built a predictive model of you. They know your schedule well enough to begin watching the door before you arrive. They register micro shifts in your facial expression before you've consciously formed a feeling. Studies have shown that dogs can distinguish human emotional states from photographs alone, and that they process these cues using the same left brain hemisphere dominance that humans use for reading familiar faces. The person they choose is often the most emotionally legible person in their world. Not the kindest necessarily, not the most present, the one who signals they can read most clearly, most reliably, across the widest range of situations. Here's where it gets counterintuitive. In studies examining how dogs form preferences within households, researchers noticed something unexpected. The chosen person was often not the one who showed the most overt affection. In several cases, it was the opposite. Individuals who gave the dog space, who allowed them to initiate contact rather than demanding it, who didn't reach for them, didn't crowd them, didn't force interaction, were disproportionately chosen as the preferred attachment figure. Excessive, unsolicited affection, it turns out, can create low-level anxiety rather than connection. It removes the dog's sense of agency. It turns every interaction into something that happens to them rather than something they chose. Your dog isn't choosing the person who loves them most visibly. They're choosing the person who makes them feel most in control of the relationship, the person who lets them decide, the person who, in their dog's experience, is safe not just emotionally but socially, someone who doesn't take more than is offered. They're not looking for the most loving person in the room. They're looking for the safest one. This isn't a guide to training a stronger bond. It's an invitation to notice something you're already doing or not doing without realizing it. How calm is your energy when you walk through the door? Not performed calm, real calm, because your dog knows the difference before you've said a single word. How often do you wait for them to come to you versus reaching for them because you need contact in that moment? How consistent are you, not in schedule but in emotional tone, across the ordinary, unremarkable moments that make up most of a shared life? Everything you do is already being processed. Every morning routine, every distracted glance, every moment of patience, and every flash of tension, Your dog is receiving it all, weighing it, folding it into the ongoing assessment of who you are to them. You are not building this relationship in the moments you're paying attention to it. You're building it in every moment that you're not. Your dog didn't choose you the way we choose things, with deliberation, with criteria, with a moment of decision we can point to. They chose you the way trust is always built, slowly, quietly, across time you barely noticed passing. Every calm evening you gave them without needing anything back. Every morning you moved through the house with steadiness they could rely on. Every time you sat with them in silence, not asking them to perform or respond or be anything other than what they were, that was being recorded, filed, weighted. The bond your dog has with you isn't just affection, it's evidence. Evidence of something you did, perhaps without even knowing you were doing it, across hundreds of ordinary days. You were consistent enough, present enough, safe enough. And somewhere in the deep, ancient wiring of an animal whose entire social intelligence was built around reading a specific human, you were chosen, not because you earned it, because you already were it. So here's something worth sitting with in your household. Who did your dog choose? And looking back, do you think you understand why? Leave it in the comments. The answers are always more revealing than people expect. And if this made you wonder just how deeply your dog reads you, the next video goes further. Because if dogs can track your emotional state with this level of precision, what do they actually sense when you're anxious, when you're grieving, when you're hiding something you haven't said out loud to anyone? What your dog knows about you that you never told them is the next piece of this story.